Okay, so if you were a Roman soldier, getting captured was, part of the job description, a risk you took. But for an emperor, a man who was worshipped as a living god on Earth? No way. Being taken alive was, well, it was literally unthinkable. It was so far outside the realm of possibility, the Roman mind just couldn't compute it.
And that really gets to the heart of it, right? The emperor wasn't just a political leader. He was the living, breathing symbol of Roman invincibility. So his capture wasn't just a military loss. It was like the laws of physics suddenly stopped working. A complete tear in the fabric of their universe.
Well, in 260 CE, one emperor found out it wasn't impossible. His name was Valerian, and he was about to learn that the unthinkable was very, very real. At the hands of the Sassanid king, Shapur I, he wouldn't just be defeated, he'd be swallowed whole, his entire identity erased and repurposed into a symbol of Rome's deepest humiliation.
All right, so let's get into the story. How does the most powerful man on the planet end up in chains? And here's the crazy part. It didn't even happen on some chaotic battlefield. It happened in what was supposed to be a safe diplomatic meeting.
So you gotta picture the scene. This is during the crisis of the 3rd century, a really chaotic time for Rome. Valerian marches this huge army, 70,000 legionaries, deep into Mesopotamia to take on the rising Sassanid Empire. But his legions were already fighting an invisible enemy, the plague of Cyprian. So by the time they actually meet King Shapur's forces, they're sick, they're starving, and they're completely surrounded.
Valerian is desperate. He tries to buy his army a safe retreat with a pile of Roman gold. But Shapur says no. Instead, he makes a counteroffer. Come to my camp, we'll negotiate in person. And Valerian, trusting in the ancient rules of diplomacy, he rides out. But the second he steps into that tent, bam! He's seized. There was no negotiation. It was a trap.
This had never happened before. Not once in all of Roman history had an emperor been captured alive. Think about it. The guy whose face is on every single coin, the symbol of absolute untouchable power, he was now just property. A military loss is one thing. This was a psychological bomb going off across the entire empire.
But it gets worse. See, King Shapur knew exactly what he had. This wasn't just some prisoner. He didn't just throw Valerian in a cell. Oh no. He turned him into a weapon, a living, breathing prop in a grand theater of humiliation.
And this wasn't some one-off thing done in the heat of the moment. This was a daily ritual designed for pure, systematic humiliation. Every single time Shapur wanted to get on his horse, they would drag out the emperor of Rome, force him down onto his hands and knees, and the king would literally use his back as a human stepping stool. All of this right in front of the Persian court and Valerian's own captured soldiers.
And Shapur wasn't about to let this moment fade into memory. He had this image of his victory carved into the side of a mountain. I mean, huge rock reliefs at a place called Naksh-e-Rostam. You can still see them today. It's Shapur on his horse holding the captured Emperor Valerian by the wrist. A permanent public billboard announcing Rome's submission. So Valerian's life in captivity was just this living nightmare. But his death, well, that's where the story takes an even darker, more macabre turn. The stories about what happened to his body after he died are just chilling. So what was his final fate? After years of this, Valerian eventually dies in captivity. But for King Shapur, that wasn't the end of the story, not by a long shot. He wanted this humiliation to last for eternity, and what he did with the emperor's body became his final, terrifying message to the world.
Okay, so according to one historian, a guy named Lactantius, Shapur's cruelty went beyond the grave. The story goes that he had Valerian's body flayed, his skin removed. Then that skin was dyed this garish crimson red, like a twisted mockery of the imperial purple robes. The hollowed-out skin was then stuffed with straw, creating this horrifying life-sized mannequin of the emperor. And that effigy was hung from the ceiling of a Persian temple as a warning for anyone who would dare challenge him.
Okay, a quick historian's note here. We have to take this account with a grain of salt. Lactantius was a Christian writer who absolutely despised Valerian for persecuting Christians, so he probably spiced up the story for dramatic effect. But look, whether it happened exactly like that or not, the core message is the same. Valerian was utterly consumed. His body was never sent back to Rome. He was just gone. So at this point, you're probably thinking, okay,
Rome is going to go absolutely ballistic, right? They're going to send every legion they have to get their emperor back. But here's the most chilling twist in this whole story. It isn't what the Persians did. It's what Rome, and specifically Valerian's own son, did not do.
See, Valerian's son, Gallienus, was now the emperor. And just look at the terrible choice he had on his plate. On one hand, he could try to save his father. But that would mean another war, another army, draining an already empty treasury, and for what? To bring back a symbol of national defeat? Or there was choice B, save the empire itself. And the only cost there was his father's life and Rome's honor.
The son let the father rot. That's the brutal truth. Gallienus did nothing. No rescue missions, no ransom offers. He just made a public statement saying his father had acted bravely, and that was it. The empire had to move on. He chose the state over his own father.
So Valerian was basically erased. He was scrubbed from the official story almost immediately. Because to even talk about him, to acknowledge what happened, was to admit to this unbearable, soul-crushing shame. It's wild. The empire was so wrapped up in its own myth of being invincible that it shows collective amnesia over trying an impossible rescue. They just looked away. But an event like this leaves a scar. The capture of Valerian was a wound in the Roman psyche that honestly never really healed. It was a single, shocking event that just shattered one of the foundational myths of their entire civilization.
Because here's what it boils down to. Valerian was never rescued. His body was never returned. He wasn't just defeated, he was abandoned. He was forgotten. He was completely erased.
And that's really the big lesson here, isn't it? The story of Valerian is this brutal reminder of how fragile power can be. The Sassanids didn't just capture a man, they took down a myth. They proved that behind all the bronze armor and the legends of invincibility, empires are incredibly fragile things.
And that choice his son Gallienus made, to save the Roman state by abandoning his father, it leaves us with a pretty heavy question. When an empire has to choose between its honor and its very survival, what's the true cost of just looking away?